The movie begins with a couple, Alex and Jen, on their way to a weekend camping trip. They're visiting a location called Blackfoot Trail, where there's a beautiful lake and a waterfall. It turns out Alex used to come here very often when he was younger, so he's excited to show Jen around. Soon after, they arrive at a provincial park where Alex registers at the checkpoint. A forest ranger reveals that Blackfoot Trail has been closed for some time due to bandits destroying the area. He suggests going somewhere else, but Alex refuses. He explains that he wants to show the lake to his girlfriend at any cost. He then bribes the ranger with some money, allowing them to pass. Later, as Alex retrieves the backpacks from his car's trunk, he notices Jen using her phone, which annoys him. He scolds her, saying that she seems more interested in her phone than nature. This upsets Jen, but she apologizes and promises not to use her phone anymore. She then turns it off and places it in the side pocket of her backpack. Following this, the couple takes a canoe and paddles onto the lake to begin their hike. When they reach the shore, Alex has a mishap as he drops the canoe and severely injures his right toe. He is in excruciating pain, but he tries to act tough and says everything is fine. Jen then shows him the first aid kit she brought, which includes bear spray and a flare, but Alex makes fun of her, insisting that such items are unnecessary here. Alex is absolutely determined to get them both killed. Soon after, the couple begins their hike, and Jen feels nervous about their surroundings. She hears strange, crackling noises along the way, making her nervous, but Alex assures her that they are safe. He starts talking about his childhood, recalling how he hiked this trail several times back then. After a while, the couple sets up camp for the night and starts a fire. They then go to the lake and have a fun time swimming and playing with each other. But, unbeknownst to them, a mysterious figure is watching them from a distance. After some time, Alex sets out to chop some wood for the bonfire. Jen insists on going with him because she's scared, but he asks her to stay behind. When Alex returns with the wood, he notices her speaking with a man. The man introduces himself as Brad and says that he has caught a lot of fish. Jen then reveals that she has invited him to stay for dinner since he can't eat all the fish on his own. Hearing this, Alex feels uneasy and goes to change his clothes in the tent. He then summons Jen inside and questions why she had to invite a complete stranger. She insists that Brad is a nice guy, but Alex remains skeptical. As the two continue discussing, Brad senses their hesitation and offers to leave so as not to bother them, but Alex changes his mind and asks him to stay, saying it was just a misunderstanding. Afterward, the three cook fish and eat around the bonfire. Alex mentions that fishing is illegal in this area, but Brad claims that the rule doesn't apply to him. He reveals that he's a hiking guide who helps tourists explore the wilderness. He then inquires about Alex's job, to which the latter explains that he owns a landscaping business. Upon hearing this, Brad makes a racist comment, saying Alex might be Mexican because they are skilled in such work. He even goes on to say that the pay must be really bad, but Jen defends her boyfriend, clarifying that his work is more high-end in nature, and that he must be single and on Tinder because he likes holding fish so much. As time passes, Brad's behavior becomes increasingly weird. He cracks some insensitive jokes and urinates in front of the couple, making them angry. That's not all. He even flirts with Jen and remarks that Alex is fortunate to have such a woman. He mentions that if she were his girlfriend, he would take her to see the waterfall and the lake. Alex asserts that they're already planning to visit those places, but Brad thinks he might not know the correct route. Following this, he gets up and begins to provoke Alex. He inquires about the misunderstanding Alex mentioned earlier. The latter reveals that he believed a stranger in the woods could be dangerous, which is why he was hesitant to invite him to dinner. Brad surprisingly understands his reasoning and finally decides to leave. But before that, he hands Jen her underwear, which was lying on the ground. I gave it a quick sniff. Afterward, Alex scolds his girlfriend for inviting such a weirdo into their camp, and she apologizes to him. He then decides to keep an axe in case Brad returns to them. The scene then shifts to the next morning, where the couple wakes up and resumes their hike. Alex notices bare footprints on the way, but decides not to tell Jen because he's still determined to get her killed. At the crossroads, she is surprised when Alex chooses the smaller path over the larger one, but she trusts her boyfriend and follows him. As night falls, they again set up camp with a bonfire. Alex notices a wound on his foot and realizes the canoe has severely damaged his toenail. He grimaces as he painfully removes it and cleans the wound with alcohol. Alex then hangs his blood-soaked socks on a branch goes to sleep. As dawn approaches, Jen is startled awake by some noises, so she quickly wakes him up. He initially calms her down, but becomes worried himself as the noises get louder. They worry that Brad might have returned, but suddenly the noises stop. In the morning, they discover blood-soaked socks and a broken tree nearby, implying that a large animal was drawn to the blood and was looking for food. Jen gets very scared and insists she wants to go home. However, Alex persuades her to stay and assures her that the journey will be worth it, even though every bad thing that has happened so far has been expressly his fault. In the next scene, as the couple is venturing through the woods, they suddenly smell a strong, foul odor. They follow the source and are shocked to discover a completely disemboweled deer. It appears to have been torn apart and eaten by a larger animal. Jen feels disgusted and walks away from the site. Shortly after, she stumbles on a branch and becomes frustrated. She states that she wants to leave, but Alex calms her down and assures her that they are almost at their destination. After a few more hours of walking, they finally reach the top of the hill and start celebrating, but their joy quickly turns to horror when they realize that there's no lake, only miles of forest around them. Alex is at a complete loss of words, as he was certain he had taken the correct path. A worried Jen asks when was the last time he came here, to which he reveals that it was during high school. Enraged, Jen looks for her phone, which she placed in her backpack. Alex claims there's no service here, but she insists that they should at least try. She continues searching for her phone, and Alex finally admits that he had taken it out of her bag and left it in the car. He says he was worried she would continue using her phone during the adventure. Upon hearing this, Jen finally loses her temper and begins screaming at him. She scolds him for bringing her into the middle of nowhere without a map or phone, putting their lives at risk. She also calls him a loser and criticizes how he always does such reckless things to impress her, and Brad probably has a bigger ding-dong. At this moment, Alex interrupts her and reveals that he had planned to propose to her by the lake. This leaves Jen speechless, and she finally calms down. The two then continue walking downhill and set up camp when night falls. The next morning, a large animal, probably a bear, sniffs around their tent, but the couple doesn't notice anything. When they wake up, they make their way down without knowing if they are heading in the right direction. At night, they realize they don't have any food left. They then share the last of their champagne, and Jen apologizes to Alex for her outburst. She says that things could have been much worse, but at least they're here together. Alex understands, and he also apologizes for getting her into this mess. The two then begin kissing and making out, but are startled by a sudden animal roar. This scares them shitless, prompting them to quickly retreat inside the tent. The following morning, the couple hears loud noises coming from outside, which freaks them out even more. Alex pulls down the zipper of the tent and sees a huge black bear in the distance. He begins looking for his axe, but realizes he has left it by the fire. He then closes the zipper and prays that the bear will move on. But moments later, when Alex opens the tent again, he sees the bear charging directly towards them. Jen anxiously reaches for her anti-bear spray, but it slips out of her hands as the bear suddenly enters the tent. It then injures her hand, causing her to lose a great deal of blood. Realizing the gravity of the situation, Alex bravely stands in front of his girlfriend. He gets ready to face the bear, but it easily overpowers him and injures his leg. At this moment, Jen finally uses the spray, causing the bear to run away. She then tries to treat Alex's wound, but the bear once again shows up. It drags the poor guy out of the tent and begins tearing into his flesh. Alex realizes that he's not going to survive, so he urges Jen to run away as fast as she can. She hesitates at first, as she doesn't want to leave her boyfriend behind, but when Alex is eventually killed, she grabs the ring and runs away from there. Jen wanders aimlessly around the forest, with blurry vision due to the blood loss and trauma. This depletes her remaining energy, and she ends up passing out on a boulder. When she wakes up, she screams for help, but to no avail. Jen puts the ring on her finger and soon hears the animal growl in the distance. She immediately climbs a tree with great struggle and spends the night there. The next morning, Jen is awakened by the sound of a helicopter flying above. She desperately cries for help, but the chopper doesn't notice her and passes on. Although disheartened, Jen continues walking downhill and soon finds a waterfall along the way. She drinks some water from there and checks the wound on her hand. When she realizes that it has gotten worse, she carefully cleans it and wraps a cloth around it to stop the bleeding. Jen then eats some random berries without knowing if they're even edible. But her moment of respite is cut short when the barbaric bear shows up and starts chasing after her. Severely exhausted, she climbs down the rocky slope to the right of the waterfall. She manages to hide from the bear, but slips and falls a few meters, breaking her ankle. Jen then makes a splint out of nearby branches and continues walking. She lights her flare at night and uses it to guide her way back to the park. The next morning, Jen is still walking through the woods, but soon passes out due to weakness. When she wakes up, she notices a deer in the distance. She then gets up and tries to go after it, but soon arrives at the abandoned canoe on the lake shore. Jen uses her last bit of strength to paddle and heads to the checkpoint. Once there, she collapses on the ground and is discovered by a group of tourists. Brad, who is guiding these tourists, notices her and rushes to help. Subscribe for more videos like this. Turn on notifications and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.